Good morning. Welcome to True Crime and Java Chat. This is Kelly with a new true crime case. Now, it is Monday, August 25th that I'm recording, and this will drop Friday for all platforms. Right now, it will be up for my Patreon and Spotify Premium subscribers. And I'm working on the third bonus episode for them. I just have to figure out which one I'm going to do. So if anybody has any case suggestions, please throw them my way. If you want me to, I will definitely do them on this podcast here. So if you have any case suggestions, please let me know. And any of my Patreon members, let me know if you have any suggestions for the bonuses. Okay. I am drinking Java Mama Tilt-A-Swirl, and Tilt-A-Swirl is part of our Mama's Picks for August. It is the carnival themed coffees, and this is golden toffee and creamy butterscotch swirled together, and I'm telling you, it is so good. Tunnel of Chocolate Love is the other one we have, and then the third one is Caramel Corn Craze, and I'm telling you what, all three of these are good, and you can get all three of them at free shipping at Java Mama. I will leave the link in the show notes. It is under the Mama's Picks. We have new ones. It's always a 3 set every month, and once they're gone, they're gone. They're exclusive. So they're not in the usually, very, very rare have I seen one in the actual coffees on the website, which is our core coffees. We have core coffees, which is they are always on the site, no matter what, but these are exclusive. So I'm going to take a drink of coffee, and we're going to get started on our case. Oh, man, that's good. Okay. John Joubert. I don't know if any of you's heard of this case. I'm sure you probably have, because other podcasts have done this, but the name is normally not the title of the episodes and the other podcasts that I've seen. So I didn't know who this guy was until I started getting into it. And I still haven't heard the details of this case until I researched it. And I have my sources, law.justia.com, and that is the actual court report on it, maleCrimeLibrary.org, and wikipedia.org. I'm really surprised I have not heard about this, but John Joubert was born July 2nd of 1963 in Lawrence, Massachusetts. He had one sister, and in 1969, when John was 6, his parents divorced. He moved with his sister to his mother's apartment in 1974, and she lived in Portland, Maine. Now, the place was always a mess, and John was not allowed to see his father, which he was not happy about. A friend of his said that John's mother was very controlling and manipulative, so she kept him on a tight leash. So he wasn't allowed to do anything, and he really resented his mother for this. But despite this, he was an honor roll student. But he was also bullied by bigger boys because of his shyness. He did not defend himself against these horrible kids, and some thought he seemed to think that he deserved abuse. John got involved in the school band and played clarinet. It just surprised me so much that he was in all of these different things and that he got good grades, because usually kids who are in a bad home, usually, at least from what I remember being in school, they usually didn't do very well in school. But he, I think, buckled down. And some people, school comes easy. Tests and grades come easy to them. It did not do that for me, but some people, they do. And I think he was just so involved in these things to forget. I think this was like the good things in his life. So he was in the school band and he played clarinet. He ran in track and joined the Cub Scouts, which that surprises me, because when I remember Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, all of that took some kind of money from the parents back in the day. So it surprises me that his mom would pay for him to, and the band playing clarinet. So that really surprised me. But he started to imagine killing people and loving how they resisted. And this was around the time that around the time he joined the Cub Scouts. And he was 13. When he was 13, he stabbed a 9-year-old girl with a pencil, and he loved it when she cried in pain. He slashed another girl with a razor blade the following day as he drove his bike past her. He actually strangled a boy until he was unconscious, and then there was also reports of John slashing a 9-year-old boy and a teacher who was in her 20s. These people were very lucky to be alive, but why wasn't something done? I can't believe nothing was done about all of this. I mean, this is assault, attempted murder. But he never got in trouble. He never got in trouble from these incidents. And since he was bullied, he was loving how he powered over people. But a teacher in her 20s, that one surprised me because it seemed like all of his other victims were younger than him. He graduated from a Catholic school, Cheverus High School, in 1981, and that was in Portland, Maine. Now, August 22nd of 1982, there was an 11-year-old boy named Ricky Stetson. He went jogging on the Back Cove Trail in Portland, Maine, and didn't come home. His parents called police that evening, and his body was found the following day on Interstate 295. He was stabbed, bit, and strangled. They arrested someone, but the bite mark didn't match the guy's teeth. He was in jail for over a year until he was released from this evidence coming out about the bite mark. And witnesses saw a man with dark hair riding behind Ricky Stetson on a 10-speed bike. That was the only thing they had to go on at the time this guy was arrested. And I never found out who it was. So I don't know who it was, why he got arrested, unless he just matched the description of the guy on the bike. Sunday, September 18th, 1983, another boy disappeared, but this was in Bellevue, Nebraska. So we're talking many, many, many states away, almost, halfway across the United States. His name was Danny Eberly, and he was 13. He only delivered 3 papers on his newspaper route at that time. And the rest of the papers, along with his bicycle, were found at the 4th address that he was supposed to deliver to. His body was found after 3 days along a gravel road 4 miles away from where that 4th address was. He only had on his underwear. His feet and hands were bound, and surgical tape was over his mouth. He had been tortured before he died, and this is going by the knife wounds on his body, which I will get back to later. But his knife wounds on his body, one was to the back of the neck, and another was so bad that it covered. There's I'm going to put a trigger warning here because it's very bad. But he was on the back. One of the cuts was on the back of his neck, and another was so bad that it covered the full length of the back of his thigh. And it was 11 inches wide, and the flesh had been cut away to the bone. Oh my gosh. 9 of the 11 stab wounds were inflicted before Danny died. The FBI was called in on this one because it appeared to be a kidnapping. Pedophiles in the area were questioned, but none could be tied to this murder. There was another boy, 12-year-old Christopher Walden. He went missing 3 miles away from where Danny's body was found, and this was on December 2nd, 1983 in Papillon, Nebraska, at the intersection of Giles and Cornhusker Road. And this is wintertime, so there's snow on the ground. He was found only in his underwear, and he also had many stab wounds. His throat was slashed, and his chest and abdomen had been carefully carved in by a knife. And the carving it looked to be a big plant with a stem and 7 leaves. And I have no idea what that represents. But both of these, Danny's and Christopher's disappearance, brought on witnesses who saw a white man in a tan car following the boys. So there was a composite sketch done on this because they both said it was a tan car and a white guy was driving, following them. So now nobody was found at this time, but on January 11th of 1984, and this was a month after Christopher Walden's murder. This was around 8:30 a.m. There was a teacher from the Aldersgate preschool, and she was getting ready to start her class. Now, the kids weren't there yet, as far as I know. I think it was just her. She saw someone driving a car close to the school, like out the windows, like right close to the windows, driving by. And the car was not tan. The driver looked in and saw the teacher, turned around and left. But then he came back, sat there, just looking at her. She got the license number before he drove off. And then he returned again. He got out, walked up to the door of the school, asked directions, and she gave him the directions he needed. But he told her he couldn't understand what she meant with her directions and wanted to use the phone. She told him there wasn't a phone inside, and then he got pissed off. He pushed her and said, "Get back in there or I will kill you." And that's a quote. That's what he said to her. So she pushed past him, ran down the street and called police. Good for her, because who knows what would have happened to her. She called police. She gave police the license number of the car, told them that this guy looked like the composite sketch that was done when the boys went missing. And it had been in the newspaper for about a month now, this composite sketch. So that's how she knew what the sketch looked like. The police found John Joubert from the license number. It was a rented car, as his tan Nova was being repaired at the time. So they traced the car because he rented this car with this license number. He was in the U.S. Air Force at a base there in Sarpy County, Nebraska. So that's how he was tied to Nebraska, because he was there. They questioned him about what happened at the school, and John just started telling them about Danny Eberly and Christopher Walden. He actually confessed on a tape recording. He told them that the morning of September 18th of 1983, he was driving his 1979 Chevy Nova to a convenience store for a beverage. It wasn't light out yet, and while in the parking lot, leaning against his car, he saw Danny Eberly with his newspapers and followed him on his route. Now, before he started confessing, they found something, which I will get to. They found something, and that's what, I think that was when he really started confessing. Like, he just told him about this. I wasn't sure exactly when they found the evidence. I don't think they found it. I mean, they may have found it because they knew he was in the Air Force, but I'm going to get back to that. So I don't want to harp on the evidence right now. But he followed Danny Eberly. He passed him, drove past him, parked 2 blocks up, got out carrying rope, and this rope is what the evidence was. So he got out carrying rope, a knife, and some tape. And he hid behind a tree. And there were some cars there too. So it was kind of like behind a tree, behind cars. And Danny was walking back to his bike after delivering a paper. As he was getting on his bike, John grabbed him, put his hand over his mouth, and the knife to his throat. He took him back to the car. And Danny didn't struggle since John told him not to make any sounds as he had the knife up to him. He had him lie down by the car so that he could tie his feet together and his hands behind his back. And then he put the tape on his mouth. Then he put him in the trunk of the car. He drove to a more secluded place in Bellevue and took Danny out, carried him into a cornfield, told him to roll over on his stomach so he could untie his hands and remove his shirt. Then he told him to roll back over on his back so he could untie his feet and take off his pants. The tape was starting to slip off his mouth, and Danny said, "Please don't kill me." Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is when John stabbed him in the back since he was struggling. He said if John would take him to a hospital, he wouldn't say anything. But of course, John didn't believe him. He stabbed him a couple more times and sliced the back of his neck. Danny stopped moving, and John wanted to make sure he was dead, so he sliced the back of his leg. And that's where I was talking about, the thigh of his leg. And his leg did not bleed. He then concealed Danny with weeds, cleaned off the knife with Danny's shirt, and returned to the barracks to go to sleep. Wow. Okay. Then, on December 2nd, 1983, John Joubert was driving around bus stops with the knife he killed Danny with. He wasn't finding anyone, so he went to neighborhood schools. He saw Christopher Walden near Pawnee School. He parked at the intersection of 48th and Margot and waited. Christopher walked by his car, and John got out, got behind him, and called to him to stop. Well, nobody else, of course, was around at this time, so nobody saw anything. John showed him the knife and told him to come with him, putting his hand on Christopher's shoulder, leading him to the car. And, of course, he did this because he's out in broad daylight. If anybody did drive by, they would just think, he's just talking to a kid, Gosh, anyway, he told him to lie down on the floor in the passenger seat. And then he started driving off. Christopher started crying. John said he was thinking of letting him go. But then he'd tell someone, and then what would happen to him? There's John Joubert just thinking about himself, What would happen to him if he did let this kid go? So, of course, he didn't let him go. When he got to his secluded destination, John ordered Christopher out of the car. They walked along some railroad tracks in the snow, and John told him if he followed his orders, nothing would happen to him. He had him stripped down to his underwear and lay down on his back. But there was snow on the ground, so he hesitated. The kid hesitated, and John took him by the neck and told him to get down on the ground. John then got on top of him, on his chest, and strangled him. Christopher was struggling, so John stabbed him a couple of times and sliced his throat. Then he sliced his stomach a few times to make sure he was dead. He went back to the barracks, threw the knife in the dumpster, went to sleep. Christopher Walden had been stabbed 7 times. Only 2 had been deeply inflicted. So he would make sure they were dead. And this is the one with the design that was carved in him. And there was nothing about this in the autopsy where I got this information. But I got that information about the big plant that was carved on his chest in the actual court report. So that's what shocked me. I was like, what in the world? But it said he'd been stabbed 7 times and only had 2 that had been deeply inflicted. Now, they found the rope he used to bind Danny Eberly. Now, here's the rope. It was in his room in the barracks. This rope is very rare. It's one that they used in Vietnam, and it was in the military. It was like somebody in the military would use this rope because it's not something you could just get anywhere. And that was the evidence that tied him to Danny Eberly's murder. And during the investigation of John Joubert, they looked into the murder of Ricky Stetson, the first kid that I talked about, and the bite wound, and his bite mark compressions matched on Ricky's body. So that was the evidence that John Joubert killed Ricky Stetson. And shortly after this murder, John joined the Air Force. And they're thinking that was the reason he joined the Air Force, because he wanted to leave Maine because he killed Ricky Stetson. They also learned of his crimes as a child with the pencil stabbing of the little girl and the other ones that I talked about. He pled not guilty at his trial, then changed it to guilty. Psychiatric evaluations found John Joubert as having obsessive compulsive disorder, sadistic tendencies, and schizoid personality disorder. They found him not to be psychotic, though, at the times of the murders. It was like he was looking for somebody, he was planning it until he found his victim. He was only tried in the first trial for Danny and Christopher, since those were the ones he confessed to, plus they were in another state. And that's the one, and of course, and the ones he confessed to. But he was sentenced to death, which was good. Now, for Ricky Stetson, during his trial in 1990 for him, he was sentenced to life because there was no death penalty in Maine, where the murder happened. Now, I went down this rabbit hole of capital punishment in Nebraska. So, John Joubert was executed on July 17th, 1996 by the electric chair. He was the second person executed in Nebraska since 1973, when the death penalty was reinstated. So they didn't have it, and then they brought it back. And that was when they got the electric chair, and he was the second one. He says, before he died, I just want to say that again, I am sorry for what I have done. I do now know if my death will change. I do not know if my death will change anything or if it will bring anyone peace. And I just ask the families of Danny Eberly and Christopher Walden and Richard Stetson to please try to find some peace and ask the people of Nebraska to forgive me. That's all. That was the quote. That's all at the end. Ask people to forgive him. I don't think so. I am sorry, but there is no forgiveness for what you do to kids. I am sorry. No forgiveness there. There's no way. His last meal was pizza with green peppers and onions, strawberry cheesecake, and black coffee. Why do we give them a free, not free, well, it is free kind of. I shouldn't say free, but I meant to say a last meal. They're going to kill him. Why are you even letting them indulge in a meal? That's just my 2 cents. I just don't understand it. Now, during his execution, John ended up with a 4-inch blister on the top of his head and blistering on both sides of his head above the ears. Ain't that just too bad? So, well, this is when they question the electric chair being cruel. It is now done by lethal injection, and the first execution was in 2018 to murderer Carrie Dean Moore. It was the first execution in Nebraska in 21 years. The last one in the electric chair was Robert E. Williams, and that was in 1997. So it was a year, almost exactly a year after John Joubert. Forensic Files Season 4 featured John Joubert in this story in the episode Ties That Bind. And episode 2 of Mastermind, To Think Like a Killer. I've never heard of that, Mastermind, To Think Like a Killer. I've never heard of that show. But I just wanted to throw that in there in case you wanted to look up Forensic Files or The Mastermind, To Think Like a Killer. This is a horrible, horrible person. The only reason I heard his name was from my day-to-day calendar. I just posted in my Facebook group, True Crime and Java Chat, the calendar I do I've got a true crime calendar day by day, and I post the cases. And he was in the trivia one. Some of these are trivia, and it talked about which serial killer was you had to match the serial killer to the forensic evidence that put him away. And I thought, John Joubert, who's that? And that's when I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, this is the guy that the Cub Scouts, because you'll see a lot. I've noticed on some of the wonderful podcasts I listen to, it'll say Cub Scouts turned murderer or something, and I never really knew what that was, and I didn't listen to them. So I haven't listened to this on any podcast. And then as I was going through it, it said, oh, he joined the Cub Scouts. And I'm like, okay, this is the one. And then when I was looking up my research, it would say that headline, Cub Scouts murder, from Cub Scouts to serial killer or something like that. So, but that is the story of John Joubert, somebody I've never heard of and somebody I don't ever want to hear of again. This was so sad researching this. I didn't know if I was going to get through it. So, I mean, reading all the whole court report on it and just everything, I don't know. But anyway, on another note, I want to thank everybody for your support and your reviews on Apple podcast. If you're on Apple, and your rating on Spotify. So thank you so much. I wanted to talk about a YouTube channel. I'm sure people have heard about it if you're really into true crime. But Ashley Banfield, Drop Dead Serious, I really like her YouTube channel. So look her up. And it's Ashley, ASHLEIGH. She did a really good report on the Idaho 4. Law and Crime, if I'm saying the right, I'm pretty sure that's the right name, did a full walkthrough the first time the police got to the house on King Road and did a complete walkthrough. Everything's blacked out, of course. The actual scenes are blacked out and the bedrooms are blacked out. But you see the inside of the house. And then there was another website I found. Not website, sorry, YouTube channel. And of course, I forgot to write that one down, where you actually see a computerized, and this shows the exact timeline. So you could probably Google YouTube, timeline of, I hate to say his name, but BK Kohlberger, I hate to say his name, but timeline of the Idaho 4 murders, his timeline, what he did. It shows the actual inside of the house. It's all animated, and it shows the beds, and it shows where everybody was, and it actually shows Dylan getting up and looking out her door, and it shows Xana going up to the room to see Brian Kohlberger with Kaylee at Maddie's room, and then he came down behind her to her room. So, and then it shows his timeline when he left, the timeline he got to Washington State, which is right across the border, and where he stopped, and how he got rid of all the evidence. I mean, it is interesting. And now, of course, again, I forgot to write the name down, but the gal who does it is very, very good. And she's fairly new I think she's fairly new the way she talked on YouTube. So she was asking for subscribers. But it is an excellent video on there, animated video. And if I think of it, I will share it to my Facebook page, True Crime and Java Chat. If you're not on my Facebook page, it's a private group. You can join it, and then I have to approve the after you answer the questions and that, and then I approve you. But I'm going to put it in there because I am just fascinated by how they did this video. It's amazing what they do with animation. And then it does show the area where they think he pre-dug a hole and got rid of his evidence. Because I kept wondering, how did he get out of there with no blood on him? His car, his footprint. I can't believe he didn't step in it and have his footprint outside the door or something. There was nothing in this house, at least from the video I saw on Ashley Banfield and Law and Crime, that there was no blood, at least that they showed anyway. Like I said, it's blocking out a lot of it, but I'm amazed there was no footprints from one bedroom down to the stairs, and he had to go across the living room to Xana's bedroom. I am in shock that there's no bloody footprints, because usually there's a footprint somewhere, and there was snow on the ground outside the door, the back area off the kitchen, the sliding door. There was snow out there, and I'm like, did he make footprints in the snow? I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, how did he get by with no footprints? And how did he get by with no blood on him? And I don't know. I really don't know how he did it, really, unless he had plastic over his boots or shoes or whatever he is wearing. But it is very fascinating. I'm going to post that in the Facebook group. So, but you could probably Google it. It's just the timeline of BK and Idaho 4, or the timeline of the date that it happened and the address. So on King Road, very, very sad, very, very sad. And then this Ashley Benfield put on there about Dylan. It shows Dylan actually talking about the crime, and she's so upset and distraught, and I really feel for her. I really do. It's very, very, very sad all around what he did to these kids and these families and his own family. He did it to his own family, his own parents, and himself. So anyway, enough about him. I don't want to talk about him. But I just wanted to talk about those the YouTube channels that I wanted to drop the name of. So anyway, I have also been listening to, if you haven't checked out the podcast Wife of Crime, it is so good. I've been so into that, and I am a part of their Patreon, so it is, they are just wonderful. And I'm trying to think of what else I've been watching. I love the new Dexter. I'm watching that. If you don't have Paramount Plus, you could probably do a free trial. I don't know. Some of those stations, you could do like a free trial, and then, but there's 8 episodes on there right now. So I don't know if there's only 10. I'm not sure, but boy, it's getting down to the wire. It is getting down to the wire. It is so good. I didn't think I'd like it taking place in New York, but it is very good. So that's highly recommended. I haven't seen much of anything else. Everything's a repeat on like Dateline 48 Hours and stuff. So I'm waiting for fall to get some new episodes to see on TV. But Amy Bradley is done on Law and Crime, I got Law and Crime in my head. They're covering it on Crime Network, and it is very good on the YouTube page and the podcast. So it is very, very good. Crime Weekly, not Crime Network, Crime Weekly. I love that podcast, and they're covering the Amy Bradley. They're talking about it. I have not listened to all of it yet. Theories and what they think happened, and it's just I'm really interested in discussions like that. But that is all for today, and it seemed like I had something else to talk about, but my Patreon is up. I've had it for almost 2 years now. 2 years I've had my Patreon up, and there's 3 bonus episodes up per month. And there's been a couple times where I was not able to do 3, but that was very rare. So there's a lot of episodes on there. Plus, you get early access. And as always, there's never ads on my episodes. So I'm really glad to do that for everybody, because I understand why you have to make money and get ads, but I just love not having ads. I really do. I like to just sit here and talk about my cases. No editing, no nothing. It's just me talking, telling you exactly what I've researched, and talking about these cases. And if you have any suggestions, please let me know. Everything's in the show notes. My email, Facebook page, Instagram, everything. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know, and have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and a wonderful beginning of September, because it's right around the corner. Have a wonderful Labor Day, everybody, and I will see you next time.